WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. Nobody more positive than this guy, and I'm going to have a little fun with Dennis Koulatsos because we used to get together and talk stuff. Do you know when my wife was battling cancer, you sent her because her maiden name was Ford, right? Jennifer Ford was my wife's name when I met her. And you sent her a bunch of built Ford tough stuff that she still wears and uses, and she has this tumbler that she still drinks out of almost every day. I stole it from her last. And I'm having Dennis on the show today, and because you've been wearing the built Ford tough shirt around here, I'm going to send Dennis a picture. So cheers to you. How are things at Koons Ford when you're not in doing sports radio with us on Thursday afternoons?
Thanks so much for asking. Glad to hear that Jen is doing well and still rocking her Ford tough shirts, which are very appropriate. They fit her and they fit her personality. But we're doing well under the circumstances. We're very, very busy. We take care of essential workers all over town and out of town. So, we've been very, very fortunate just waiting for the factories to open up, the plants to open up, so they can manufacture, because now I'm starting to get low in inventory. I'm starting to get nervous because I'm down to about 530 new vehicles in stock. I usually stock close to 1,000. So that's one thing I'm keeping an eye on. But look, we're busy, service, sales, body shop parts. And again, I take immense pride in not having laid off a single one of our 150-plus employees.
Well, let's say somebody's going to buy a car right now and they want a white with black interior, whatever model and whatever they want. The fact that you have 500 cars and not 1,000, I would think you can still get the car, right? There is something about coming out to my lot and walking around and walking in and out of cars. I don't know that I would shop that way anymore, the way I used to buy a car, right? But I would think that now it's, I want this color, I want this, I want that, and then you click on it, find it, and bring it, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. We're still trading with our trading partners all over the country, so we can get exactly what people want. And just a report from a J.D. Power employee who said, if you have a job or if you have the means to buy a vehicle, right now is a great time because you can get 0% for 72 or 84 months with a lot of different model lines. So you can save a lot of money because these deals aren't going to be around forever. When things bounce back and the demand spikes up, especially if the supply chain is low, it's gonna. I imagine the transactional prices will be higher, and I can't see 0% for 84 months staying around forever.
Yeah, that's kind of unprecedented. Kind of like the times we're in right now. Dennis Koulatsos is here. Koons Ford Security Boulevard, of course, is here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home. We're through the draft. Looks like the league's going to release a schedule of some kind. At least it feels that way. I guess I'll hold the flight to Houston, and I'm not thinking in terms of putting bus trips together, Den. I'm not thinking like that right now. From a sports standpoint, as much as sports has been your passion, obviously my life, prior to this. I mean, it says sports over here on the logo, and it's like, what would we do in a world without sports? Well, we're 60 days into this, right? And Korea's playing baseball now. I saw that during breakfast in the dome that I was actually in 5 months ago, strangely enough. For you with sports and the things that you're missing and when these things are going to come back, I'm asking everybody, just blanket. What do you expect? What are your expectations? Not your hopes. Well, our hopes is we're all 2 weeks from now, we have a cure and a vaccine. But your expectations for what this would look like and whether the Orioles will go play baseball games in July in Phoenix, or I don't know. But I'm starting to try to calibrate what's the exit strategy on this, like what's really going to happen. I wasn't thinking in those terms a month ago, I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, these are, as you mentioned, unprecedented times, Nestor, so who knows? I saw a report with the NFL talking about maybe allowing 15,000 fans in most stadiums, emptying out one row at a time. Can you imagine 15,000 fans at M&T Bank Stadium being spread out? So whatever the new norm is going to be, but it certainly does look like they'll play ball at some point, right? And sports has had a big impact on my life. As a young man, I played 3 sports in high school. I was always busy, and that's how I coped with things. It was a great outlet, a great escape for me. If I had an issue, I'd go out and play basketball or baseball or football, and it's just part of our fabric. And also, as we watch these things, and we don't know what the ending's going to be, right? So we don't know These are not pre-scripted outcomes. So that's why we love sports so much. But I can't even begin to imagine a world without sports. We weren't built, Nestor, to shelter in as human beings. We're built to move, right? We're all about movement. And that anytime someone or something restricts that movement, it's not a good thing for human beings. So the quicker and the faster we get out of this and we get ourselves back immersed into playing sports and watching sports. And I've always ran my business, too, like a sports team. The dynamics are the same, right? So there's a lot of elements I miss about being able to go to a sporting event or watch a fresh sporting event.
Well, for everybody to have it taken away from them, and all the years I covered hockey when I was very young, I was 15, 16, 17 years old, talking to hockey players that weren't much older than me, a couple of years older than me. And then I was born in 68 then, so this is 85, 86, 87. By the time I got to 90, 91, 92, I'm covering high school sports, and I'm older than high schoolers, right, at that time. And then I got into baseball, and I'm in the locker room with Brady Anderson and Mike Messina. Guys are pretty much my own age, right? Now, all these years later, when I ripped my knee up in 2006, so I was 38 years old, it was the first time in my life that I was ever, I lost my finger when I was 3, and I still played sports every day of my life after that, even when I hit it and it hurt like hell. But in 2006, I kind of had my life taken away. I was on crutches most of the summer. I was hobbled up. Todd Heap was injured around that time. And I remember having conversations with him. I remember having conversations with Rob Burnett, who had it taken away. He was doing color at that time. And how powerful it is for an athlete to be injured. I know everybody was watching the Alex Smith thing this week, and you think about injuries and competitiveness and how healthy Jordan stayed, how healthy Cal Ripken stayed, how healthy Brett Favre stayed, how healthy Peyton Manning stayed until he wasn't healthy anymore. Ditto Joe Flacco, right, who made every start. But when you have it taken away from you, I've never viewed sports and injuries the same way since I got injured when I was 38 and I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. I couldn't walk from here to there. I couldn't sit on the toilet. I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit in the car. I couldn't do anything. And I wondered if that were my vocation, right? And if I were a tight end on the Ravens and that's how I woke up every morning, knowing that I need to get from here to there to have my livelihood back, it's a different thing. I think every athlete has had it taken away from them once, right? They've been injured in some way or even just benched or not good enough that you couldn't play that day. This is sort of a wild extension of that for all of us, right? Where you can't do what you want to do and it's taken away. Like my wife's cancer took life away from her for 3 years, literally. All of us have lost something in these 8 weeks, and we've had to sort of sit still a little bit, right? And I hope we're using that time wisely because that's how you come out of the injury, the down period better, right? That you've pondered what's going on here and how to make it better on the other end, right?
Yeah, in 9 seasons of high school sports, Nestor, I got injured one time. I broke my collarbone playing lacrosse in my junior year. I was 15 years old.
How far into the season?
It was a preseason game.
Oh, man, you lost the whole season. Wow, okay.
It was devastating. For the first time in my life, Nestor, I had to sit down and think. Prior to that, I'd be physical. I'd get out and get my frustration out. But for the first time, I had to sit there and think. And it was horrific to deal with. It really was. And I know that there's other more pressing things in the world, but as a 15-year-old who was very physical all the time, and my seasons to be taken away that early, it was devastating. I can't imagine what high school kids are going through, high school seniors that will not have any sporting events, and also college seniors that will give up their senior year. I can't imagine what their mindset is, because if this is not an injury, this is something that was taken away from them. And I'm sure they're probably in the same boat as I was, and maybe even worse, because they can't get that time back.
Yeah, you can't redshirt, junior, senior, high school, right? So that is Koulatsos is here. He'll be here on Thursday and talking about all sorts of, from a where to put your focus, though, at this point. Obviously, you're running Koons Ford. I'm running WNST. I'm doing all this stuff with mayor candidates and Baltimore Positive and all the stuff we're doing right now. But the sports part of this is when it comes back, I'm fascinated to see how electric it would be. if the Orioles decide, baseball decides, we're going to play a 60-game sprint. We're going to play August and September. We're going to play every day. We're going to play for nobody or somebody or 10,000 people, whatever they're going to do. That how will the flag work and the singing of the anthem and the gathering of people and the if Trey Mancini were to play at this point, and we've seen his story wrapped into this thing, there's going to be a lot of emotion about everything. Whatever the things that open, restaurants that open, events that happen, the first concerts or gatherings or graduations or things that we've missed that happen. But sports is going to look to be the leader in America, that we're really fixed when we can all get together and play games again, right?
Hey, sports, they do unite us. Who can forget the 1980 Olympics, right? The hockey team, the Miracle on Ice. That's what, and I'm getting goosebumps just even thinking about that time, Nestor. That's what sports does for us, and that's what's missing right now is those great storylines that we're missing them being created. The only thing we have now is the past to look at and go back and relive some of those joyous events, but also I think this is good because it'll give us some appreciation, right? Then we have to be appreciative when things are going well because we know at some point they're going to turn for the bad, just like when they're going bad, they're going to turn for the better. And so it'll give us a deeper appreciation for what we have, things that perhaps we may have been taken for granted the last few years.
Dennis, for you and me, I guess music, you're always playing music and playing little fun songs for me and whatnot. I have been challenged by many, many people to do this album challenge, and I'm playing along here in the month of May. It's been going on since like January that people have been inviting me, and I don't want to be a bad sport, but I just didn't have the time for it to do it the right way, to really think through what the 10 albums would be. And then the rule is you're not allowed to write anything. You just put the album cover up. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm a writer because I'm putting too much thought into it to not write about it, or the why. Like, why is it the top 10? So I started to do the top 10 because Dave Geller famously challenged me over the weekend, and I felt like, and I'm really busy right now. You know this. I'm working on a bunch of different things, bunch of sort of off the projects that I'm not talking about on the internet yet, but I will. Some togetherness stuff, and I thought, do I have time to do this? And I said to my wife said, you're so excited talking to me about it. Why don't you just do it? Why don't you've been talking about writing about music all these years. Everybody, you show your passes and put your ticket stubs up and talk about music with people. There's no sports now. Why don't you just sort of adopt music in this period of time? There's no concerts, and this is your chance to tell these stories and the album covers. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I've taken the deep dive in. I was going to do 10, and 10 led to 12, and 12 led to 15 or 16. And then my wife's like, well, why don't we sit in the studio and you can get your backstage passes and your tickets, and we'll do a segment. We'll do a radio segment, video segment on it, and we'll do Facebook Live. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do that Preakness Day, I said to her, because we're not doing a Preakness. So instead of the Preakness, we're going to sit here and go through album stories in the same way that Ray Bachman is doing trivia on Saturday, and my friends Ed Lauer and Jason Seymour, they're strumming the guitar and doing Venmo. I'm not doing Venmo for it. We're just going to turn it on and talk to folks. So spend Preakness with us next Saturday, and I'm going to get the music stuff up here. It's going to be music only. We're not going to do sports. We're not going to mix the streams. And I started these albums. Have you been challenged to the album thing? You're not on Facebook anymore, but you're aware that this thing is going on, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you a quick music story. I got myself an old-time record player, Nestor, and one of my best friends, we were talking, and I told him the first album I bought when I came to the U.S. in 73, and it was shortly thereafter, was Chuck Mangione's Feel So Good. And bless his heart, he dug up an album and got it to me. And when I put that on and I heard Chuck Mangione blasting Feel So Good with a cracking sound that only a record player can make, it just took me back to a place and time where things were just so much more simple, and the wonder of coming to this big, beautiful country of America and discovering all these great things. So music is a wonderful, wonderful medium. I remember when Vince McMahon introduced music with WrestleMania and Cyndi Lauper and got that music going with the wrestlers, and how now people connect to their favorite wrestlers. When they hear the sound of the song, the introduction song to get geeked up. So music does many, many wonders for us. So I credit you for doing something like this.
Well, the Nasty theme song for me, nobody ever knew that was a rapper from Philly named Kwame, who I still have never had on, And I haven't played the Nasty theme song here in at least 7 or 8 years. I mean, at least since 2012. But people still come up and sing it to me.
But you know what?
Yeah.
You should bring it back, man. Why not? This is a great time.
No.
Music connects us, man. It really does. It's one of the most wonderful connectors as people, as human beings.
So, I always talk to you about Sedonia and your side of town and where you grew up. And, my cousins lived over in the Gardenville area, Berkshire off of Walther and Hartford Road by sort of over toward the reservoir. And my cousin Nelson lived on Tyndale Avenue, right around the corner from Mike Rosigliano by Herring Run Park. Where the old Peppers was, right? And because you probably played a lot of ball in that park over there, right? So
I went to Herring Run Junior High School, just so you know.
Okay, well there you go. So then Tyndale Avenue in Berkshire. So
I do.
This the same era. Okay, so this is 1974, 75. My older cousin, who's a couple years older than me, probably your age, probably 3, 4, 5 years older than me. I don't even remember. I don't know how old Nelson is. Nelson's probably born in 64. I was born in 68. So Nelson was like my bigger brother, but he was my cousin, and he had a Kiss Alive album in the attic. And the attic had bats in that neighborhood, right? You never saw a bat in Dundalk, but they had bats there at nighttime. And we would play Black Betty. We would play Cher, Dark Lady, and Elton John, Crocodile Rock. And Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word. And he had a Kiss album, and he gave me Kiss Alive 1. And I brought that home, and I put it on my mom's brown turntable. I don't think it might have been a Sylvania, but I'm trying to go through what the make and model, and I'm going to go through some old pictures to try to find it this weekend so I can present it, because I'm trying to present the entirety of my music journey, because I ask a question, Dennis, and I asked this on Twitter about 2-3 weeks ago. I said, what has meant more to you? Now that sports has been taken away, what has meant more during your life, music or sports? And everyone said music. Now, and you gave me your broken heart story about your broken collarbone and how much you love sports, and we all love sports. But there's something about hearing Chuck Mangione, right? Doing Feel So Good that's different than like the 73 Orioles were. It's just different. It's a different vibe, right? And it ages differently. Sports hasn't aged as well for me as music has. And I say that as a sports guy.
Yeah, well, music is timeless, right? And unfortunately, we do tie certain music. The Pittsburgh Pirates, right? We are family to bring up the sword point and
Omar Moreno's wife.
But we do, right? It does link us. It does anchor us to a certain place and time. And again, that's why, love it or hate it, that's why we love music so much.
I'm thinking about Kiss Alive 1. So my first 5 albums, then, for people following along, you ready? Kiss Alive 1. Yep. Boston, the first album, right? I mean, come on, man, you're an EVT guy in the late 70s, early 80s.
Of course.
Baby, it's a party, and nobody cares. Engelbert Humperdinck's greatest hits, which I'm thinking I mean, you were an Essex guy. I mean, that was... People knew Engelbert.
I like Engelbert. I can sing some songs. But
tell me when will you be mine? Yeah. Tell me quando. Eagles, Hotel California, right? Iconic, right?
Yes. Stemmers Run. That takes me back to Stemmers Run Junior High School.
Man, right across from Al's Seafood and the Giant, where I used to get all my Topps bubblegum cards with my pop,
Yep. You know it, man. Because, I transferred midway through junior high, so I went from Herring Run to Stemmers Run. So I was culturally shocked both ways just to be as an immigrant, just so you know.
Well, I mean, I can only imagine, Dan. And then you'll appreciate this one because this is you, and you're gonna look through your old pictures. You're gonna come up with something where you had a satin shirt on. Today's selection, and I'm sharing this only with you for now. Saturday Night Fever, the soundtrack, is number 5. That is today's entry on Peter DeLutis' birthday, nonetheless.
Happy birthday. Peter and Chris have birthdays today, so happy birthday to both of them. But I still sing a lot of those songs from that track. I still play them in my spin classes.
Burn, baby, burn. Yeah.
Oh, Disco Inferno, the trance. That's the first song that popped. That's the first song that popped into my mind. Satisfaction, baby. That's, it gets everybody going. It's a wonderful song to start off, a workout with.
Came in a chain reaction. That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
Man, we burned that up
sir.
at the roller rink, and when I think of that song, I think of the first time I went roller skating at the skate land on 40.
Skate land.
No. Now, I went to the Roll Arena. When I think of the Roll Arena at North Point Theater, I think of the Eagles, and I think of Firefall and You Are the Woman, and those songs from 75 and 76. Now, the skate land opened in North Point, like a Gray Manor area in about 78, 79. And I went there religiously. I went to the skate land in Essex, right down by Stemmer's Run. We chased all the girls from Hawthorne back in the day. And my first girlfriend, Heidi, who lived over off of Mace Avenue. So that was more 80, 81 era, 82 era for me. But I went skating for a short period of time. In, I want to say 80 or 81 in the summers. I went to the skate land on 40 on Sunday nights. And I was the only Caucasian there. Okay, I mean, and the music was completely different than any. I mean, at Skateland in Dundalk, they were playing country songs. They were playing Kenny Rogers at couple skates. When I went to Skateland on 40, it was Brothers Johnson. It was Off the Wall Michael Jackson. Yeah. It was Sugar Hill Gang. It was Sequence. It was Teddy Pendergrass. It was Earth, Wind, and Fire. It was the Tramps. So when I think Burn, Baby, Burn, and I think of Saturday Night Fever, I mean, I had the soundtrack. I probably had the Tramps on 45. But I think of that song specifically being played at the Skateland on 40, and it just burning up. I mean, people could really skate at the Skateland on 40. I mean, you had to, get out of it. I thought I was a good skater, but there was a different kind of skating going on to Michael Jackson Off the Wall there than there was to Don Williams doing I Believe in You, I Believe in Me. Yeah. There were puppy dogs, and, that was going on at the Skateland over. But, that was also, there was Loverboy and Journey, and those were the days, man. Music and skating, right? That was all skate slowly and carefully. All skate slowly and carefully, Dennis. Is that good?
All skate, lights out skate, couple skate, backward skate. I had a good friend of mine. His name was Al. I forget his last name. He was at the Essex Skateland. He was a referee, and he was the guy that would make sure that you weren't.
He may have been the guy that tried to beat all my friends up when they hit on the wrong girls from Hawthorne. I seriously.
Maybe.
We got chased down to the Thunderbird in A1. I'm serious. We did. I'm not lying to you. Right by Pizza John's.
What's the word Thunderbird? Right when you what that meant, but it was a lot of fun. You're right. The different areas you get different music, and like you, I covered all the spectrum, country music to rap to rhythm and blues, which I'm a big R&B guy. So everything you mentioned. I'm right there. All my friends, they went to hard rock, so I didn't really gravitate too much.
Well, you were Essex, man. That was, the beginning of metal. I mean, everything around you, I'm sure, was Zeppelin and AC/DC and Bad Company.
But that wasn't me, though. I was still more into, because I grew up in an urban neighborhood, so my favorite station was 1400 AM back in the day, and it was all what you mentioned, Teddy Pendergrass and Luther Vandross, and that's where my roots are, and it's still today. That's what I gravitate to.
I was online singing Serpentine Fire with Stan Gibson the other day, so which he turned me on to. Hey, man, a little music. See, I knew we would bring this up. I mentioned Saturday Night Fever, and because it's today's song or today's album, I want to mention the Orioles and how they were involved in that, right? Because disco to me, I was in elementary school, and some of the girls had it, right? But there was no MTV. So, it came to me on K-Tel. It came to me on television for sure, right? But more than that, when I went to Orioles games, in the early 70s, it was dun, 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 dun. It was the organ music, right? And then sometime, and I have to ask Charles Steinberg, and maybe I have asked him, and I could go through and cull through the archives, but right around that period of time, between innings, when Mark Belanger and Billy Smith and Bobby Grich were taking infield, they would start to play music, and the music they would play was more disco than. When I think of Anita Ward's "Ring My Bell," ring my bell, my bell. When I think of that, I think of between innings at Memorial Stadium and the music they played when they were doing infield when I was 10 years old. And Boogie Shoes, from that soundtrack was also something that I remember hearing Boogie Shoes to that measly, awful Memorial Stadium sound system coming out of center field, right? So I think of disco, and I think of Wild Bill yelling "Disco sucks," right? And the disco demolition night. So there was a little bit of cultural thing going on around disco. But, man, like you, I am so glad that Kenny Rogers and Earth, Wind & Fire and Kiss and the Bee Gees and Iron Maiden and Van Halen were all in my life at the same time.
Yeah, it was just a great time to live, right? And it's still a wonderful time to live. Not that we have much of a choice, but to your point, it's we were exposed to a lot of different things, a lot of great things, and especially when these artists were up and coming. That's when you see them at the best, right? When they're raw, when they're growing, versus haven't made a ton of money and it gets spoiled by some success, right? So we were very fortunate to see those eras.
If I told you that my sixth artist on day 6, I'm doing one a day. So, there's May 6, May 7, May 8. And, people know there's going to be some Zeppelin coming down the line. Yeah, I mean, they know what's coming. But day 6 is something a lot of folks don't know that's coming, but I'm going to let you in on it. And I'm just going to tell you that he wrote the songs that made the whole world sing. So I'm just going to let you know that is day 6. Okay, so I'm doing this chronologically. I've put a lot of thought into this, right? Because it's important. I have no sports this month. I have no games to watch. I said to my wife, I'm going to take a day or two, and I'm going to write all of these synopses of these 31 albums. And that's what I'm doing this month to thank Dave Geller for giving me the knock in the head and saying, "Dude, you were a music critic. Come on, write this stuff. People want to read it." So I'm going to write it and hope you're going to read it. How about that?
And I want to read it. And I've been to 2 of his concerts live, just so you know.
He's been alive forever, and he wrote the very first song.
Right.
He put the words and the melodies together. He is music.
He did. Got me through college with that album too. By the way, I know all of his words, all of his songs, word for word. Just so you know.
All right, looks like we made it. It's almost daybreak. Dennis Koulatsos. I'm going to hit the road here. All right.
You got it. Have a great one. Thanks a lot.
There he goes, Dennis Koulatsos, Koons Ford, Security Boulevard. This is my wife's Built Ford Tough tumbler. Dennis got her a whole bunch of Built Ford Tough stuff. We want to appreciate everything all of our sponsors do for us. I've got all the stuff out here. We're drinking Rofo coffee. I have not had the Western fries, but I'm going to bring home some chicken and heat it up. Pizza John's. I ate some Pizza John's this week for the very first time. Roasted red peppers, capers, and the special Pizza John's pepperonis, and you know what I'm talking about. So we fired that up at 450 on the Pizza Stone here, the home bake. You can ship Pizza John's anywhere, from Essex to you, anywhere in the world. Go to Pizza John's, learn more about that. I'm sharing all this stuff. My Liberty Pure hat's on. I'm drinking pure water, clean water. Mimi's here from State Fair, State Farm, and I have State Fair and State Farm. How about that? So I did not misspeak, because you can get the wings and the shrimp and grits to go over at State Fair in Catonsville with Baltimore Positive, as well as State Farm and Mimi, who I got to get together with, but I got to zoom up with her because I'm redoing my insurance. I met Mimi at insuringbmore.com. She's sponsoring us now. Big thanks to all the State Farm folks and our friends at Strategic Factory as well. Liberty Pure Solutions, 1-800-253-2692. Clear water. Drinking clearly, seeing clearly, feeling clearly, and looking clearly at 31 albums this month for the month of May. No sports. We're going back of the rack. You'll get some GNR before it's all over with. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and Baltimore Positive. Hang with us. We're getting through this pandemic together with friends.